Night shift at the underground parking. Last night, I was sitting in the security booth of level B3, 3 floors beneath the city streets, when I realized I hadn't seen another human being in over 4 hours. The fluorescent lights hummed their usual electric song, casting that sickly yellow glow across endless rows of concrete pillars. I'd taken this night shift job at the underground parking structure because the pay was decent and the work seemed easy. Just monitor the cameras, do hourly rounds, and make sure no one breaks into the parked cars. Simple, right? That's what I thought until last night. It started around 2:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I was staring at the clock, willing the hours to pass faster. That's when I noticed something odd on camera 6, the one covering the northeast corner of B4, the lowest level. A shadow moved across the screen, but it didn't move like a person. It was too fluid, too elongated, stretching across 3 parking spaces before disappearing behind pillar. I leaned closer to the monitor, my coffee going cold in my hand. The camera feed showed nothing but empty parking spaces and that eternal concrete landscape. I checked the entry log. No cars had entered in the past 2 hours. No one should be down there. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just a glitch in the camera or a rat casting a weird shadow. But then I heard it, a sound coming through the speakers connected to the parking level microphones. A scraping sound, like metal dragging across concrete, echoing up from B4. My hands were shaking as I switched between camera feeds. B1 clear, B2 clear, B3 my level clear, B4. I froze. In the far corner, barely visible in the grainy footage, stood a figure. But something was wrong with its proportions. Its arms hung too low, almost reaching its knees, and its head tilted at an unnatural angle. The protocol was clear. If there's an intruder, call the police and stay in a booth. But I needed to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. I grabbed my flashlight and headed for the stairwell, my footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. The descent to B4 felt endless. Each level seemed colder than the last, and the air grew thicker, harder to breathe. When I pushed open the door to B4, the temperature dropped so dramatically I could see my breath. The overhead lights flickered, once, twice, then stabilized, but they seemed dimmer than usual, barely pushing back the darkness that pooled in the corners. I called out, "Security? Identify yourself." My voice sounded small and pathetic in that vast concrete tomb. Nothing. I moved forward, sweeping my flashlight across the empty spaces. The scraping sound had stopped, replaced by an almost physical silence that pressed against my eardrums. I was about to turn back when I saw it. Scratch marks on the concrete floor, fresh ones cutting deep into the surface. They led toward the service corridor, a narrow passage that ran along the edge of the parking level, used for maintenance access. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I followed those marks. The service corridor was even darker, my flashlight beam barely making a dent in the blackness. The scratches continued along the floor, the walls, even the ceiling, as if whatever made them had been crawling along every surface. Then I found a car, a silver sedan, parked in a space near the back wall. But this car wasn't on tonight's entry log. It wasn't on any log. I checked the license plate. It was covered in dust, like it had been sitting there for years. When I wiped the rear window and shined my light inside, my blood turned to ice. The interior was covered in scratch marks. The seats were shredded, the dashboard cracked and broken, and something dark stained the driver's seat. But what made my legs nearly give out was what I saw in the rearview mirror. Scratched into the glass, over and over, were 2 words, "Still here." A sound behind me, breathing, heavy and wet. I spun around, and my flashlight caught something ducking behind a pillar. But I saw enough, too much. Pale skin stretched over impossible angles, fingers too long, too many joints scraping against the concrete as it moved. I ran. I didn't think, didn't look back, just ran for the stairwell. Behind me, that scraping sound multiplied, echoing from every direction, as if the walls themselves were alive with movement. I hit the stairs and took them 3 at a time, my lungs burning, that wet breathing sound getting closer. I burst through the door to B3 and slammed it behind me, fumbling with my keys to lock it. Through the small window, I saw darkness moving in the stairwell, something climbing up toward me, its shadow writhing across the walls. I made it back to the security booth and locked myself inside, gasping for air, my heart trying to break through my ribs. On the monitors, I watched the stairwell door I'd just come through. For 5 minutes, nothing. Then, slowly, the handle began to turn. I called the police, barely able to speak. They arrived within 10 minutes, the longest 10 minutes of my life. While I waited, I watched on camera 6 as that figure emerged from the stairwell onto B3. It stood there, in the middle of the parking level, its head swiveling in that impossible way, as if it could sense where I was hiding. When the police arrived, I met them at the entrance, babbling about what I'd seen. They searched every level. They found nothing. No figure, no scratches, no mysterious silver sedan. They told me stress can cause hallucinations, that the isolation of night shift work can mess with your mind. But when they left, I went back to the monitors one last time before I quit on the spot. I pulled up the saved footage from camera 6, the northeast corner of B4. I watched myself descending the stairs, watched myself investigate, watched myself run. And in the background, barely visible, I saw it. Not one figure. Dozens. Pressed against the walls. Hanging from the ceiling. Crouching behind every pillar. And every single one of them was watching me. I walked out of that parking structure at 6:23 a.m. and never went back. They called me for days, asking me to explain my sudden resignation, to at least return my security badge. I ignored them all. But here's what keeps me awake now. What makes me check every shadow, every reflection. Last night, I was taking out my trash when I noticed something in the alley behind my apartment building. Scratch marks. Fresh ones. Leading from the storm drain up to my building's basement entrance. And this morning, when I got in my car to go to my new job, I found something on the passenger seat. A security badge. My security badge from the parking structure. The one I'd left behind when I quit. But here's the thing that made my hands shake so badly I could barely drive. On the back of the badge, scratched into the plastic in those same thin, deep lines, were 2 words. We followed.